Hi, I'm Lisa Bardot, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to draw this fun, quirky pumpkin pie in Procreate. I'll give you some tips for how to make a subject more interesting by playing with proportions and angles. We'll also use clipping masks and blend modes to create light and shading effects, and then we'll do some finishing touches to give it a little more artistic style. For this tutorial, I'll be using brushes from my free Kids Make Art brush set. It's a set of 6 Procreate brushes that I made to emulate some of your favorite childhood art supplies. I'll put a link to download this free brush set in the description below. If you're new to Procreate, I recommend watching my Procreate for Beginners tutorial to get you familiar with the basics. And if you want to take your learning to the next level, you should join Art Makers Club. Art Makers Club is a joy-filled creative community and learning hub for digital art makers. As a member, you'll get access to a growing library of in-depth courses, live virtual events and tutorials, free Procreate brushes, and more. Plus, you'll be joining a supportive and uplifting community of learning artists. You can watch this video ad-free, and you'll receive the exact color palette as well as the Procreate file to dig into. Find out more at artmakersclub.com. Let's get started. Let's make a new canvas. For this piece, my canvas size is 3800 by 2800 pixels. Let's start this piece with a sketch. I'm going up to my brushes, and for this piece, I'm going to be using brushes from my Kids Make Art brush set. This is a free set you can get on my website. And I'm going to choose the colored pencil brush to do my sketch. Then I'm going to choose just kind of like a black color, and I can begin my sketch. So if I wanted to draw like a standard looking piece of pie, as maybe it looks in real life, I would draw a triangle like that, and then a couple lines going straight down, connected at the bottom. Then I draw my crust, something like that. So that's a pretty basic shape for a pie piece, but we want to do something a little more fun, a little more quirky. So we're going to exaggerate some of these proportions and also play with the angles of these lines. So I'll clear that out and let's start again. So I'm going to draw the top of my pie piece by making 2 angled lines. One's a little bit longer than the other. And then I'm going to connect those with a curved line like that. And then for the side of the pie, I'm actually going to angle these lines in a little bit just to kind of make it a little more fun, a little more quirky. So something like that. And I've also made it a lot taller than a normal piece of pie, but I think that makes it more fun. So connect those 2 lines at the bottom. And then for the pie crust, I'm going to really exaggerate the kind of wavy shape that you see on a pie. So I'm going to draw some really tall, big, wavy bumps along the back. And then I'm going to draw a line down along the side and then along the bottom like this. So there's our cute little pie shape. Now we're going to draw a dollop of cream on top. So I'm going to start by drawing the base of how that dollop would sit on the pie like that. And I'll kind of zoom in here. So up from the sides of this shape, I'm going to draw 2 lines, one a little bit taller than the other. And then I'm going to connect those together with a curved line to form sort of like a canoe shape. And then I'm going to do that again. So draw a couple curved lines and then kind of connect that. And then for the last one, this is going to be kind of like the part that curves around. So I did sort of an S shape and then connect it like that. And there's our little dollop of cream. Here's a comparison of the more realistic pie shape and our quirky version. The second one is a lot shorter and fatter with exaggerated details and angles, making it overall more cute and unique. And then finally, I'm going to add a plate underneath. So for that, I'm going to use Quick Shape. So I'm going to draw an oval, and when I get back to the beginning, I'm going to keep my pencil on the screen. And as you see, it's enacted Quick Shape. And when I let go, I'm going to tap Edit Shape up here and then just like arrange this and make it the size that I want it to be, just to make it appear like the pie is sitting on this plate. Okay, our sketch is all done. I'm just going to use the Transform tool to kind of reposition this to the center of my canvas. And now I'm ready to move on to color. So I'm going to go up to my layers, I'm going to create a new layer, and then I'm going to move this layer below the sketch layer. And then I'm going to tap the little N on the sketch layer and reduce the opacity of my sketch so that it's just barely visible. Then I'm going to go over to my colors, and I'm going to start by choosing a nice pumpkin pie color. So I'm here in the oranges, something that's not super saturated. Do want a little bit of darkness to it. So that's the color that I'm going to use. And I'm still using my colored pencil brush. My brush size is about 27%. And when I draw with this, I'm going to use really heavy pressure to get a line that's nice and solid like this. And I'm just tracing these 2 sides of the pie here. And then here where it touches the pie crust, it doesn't have to be so perfect. because we're going to cover that up with the pie crust layer. So it doesn't have to be perfect there. So once you've made a completely closed shape, you can fill it with color drop. And if you notice you have these kind of like white spaces between your color drop and your line, you just need to adjust your color drop threshold. So I'll show you how to do that. Do color drop like normal, but keep your pencil on the screen. Then move it to the right until you see that bar go all the way across, and fill it as far as you can while not flooding the entire screen. So something like that. Now you won't see those gaps as much. It's still a texture brush, so you might have a few little gaps, but you can always just paint them in like that. Okay, once you've done your main pie shape, we're gonna do the side of the pie in a darker color. So let's go up to the colors, and I'm gonna choose a little bit darker of this color, but also a little redder. Let's see how that color looks. I think that's a pretty good color. So I'm gonna go over to my layers. I'm gonna create a new layer right above the one that I just made. And then I'm gonna trace over this line here. And then continue on to make just a closed shape like that. Doesn't have to be perfect on the bottom. And then fill it with color drop. Then I'm gonna go to my layers and I'm gonna tap this new layer. And in the layer options, I'm gonna choose clipping mask. And this basically hides everything else that's not within the shape of the layer below it. Now we'll do the pie crust. I'm gonna create another new layer. And then I'm gonna choose kind of a yellowier color, a little lighter. So something a little more like pie crust. And I'll trace over my little pie crust lines here. And then I can fill that in with color drop as well. Okay, we're gonna do our little dollop of cream next, but since this is gonna be white, I'm not gonna be able to see myself drawing it, so I'm gonna set my background color now. I'm gonna go up to my layers, I'm gonna tap background color, and I'm gonna go into the kind of yellow greens over here. And then I'm gonna choose kind of a dark-ish yellowy green color. I think that looks really nice with the orange. And then I'm gonna go over to the color picker and I'm gonna choose white. So just double tap close to white and that will snap to white. Now we're gonna do this dollop of cream in 3 layers. So I'm just gonna go ahead and create 3 layers to start. They're all ready to go for me. And I'm starting with the topmost layer, which is gonna be the top of the cream. So I'm just gonna trace over that shape like that, and then fill it in. Then I'm gonna go to the layer below it and I'm gonna do the next shape. So you can't exactly see what you're doing underneath the other shape, but just make sure that you close your shape. If you're not sure, you can always draw a line kind of underneath it like that and then fill it in. And then I'm going to go to my last layer and I'm going to draw that shape as well. Make sure you close the shape and then fill it in. So there I have my cream in 3 layers. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is draw my plate shape. So I'm just going to create a new layer and then move it below all the other layers. And then I'm going to trace over this oval to make my plate shape. And it's okay if it's a little wonky because we're trying to make it kind of quirky anyways. So don't worry if it's not like perfectly over your, quick shape oval. We'll fill that in too. So these are all the shapes for our pumpkin pie piece. Now we're going to add some texture. So we're going to do our texture using Alpha Lock. So I'm going to just turn on Alpha Lock on all of these layers. And to do that, you can swipe to the right on each of them with 2 fingers. So do a 2-finger swipe to the right on all of your layers. You can also turn it on by tapping a layer and choosing Alpha Lock from the menu, but I like the gesture, it's a little bit faster. And let's begin with our main pumpkin pie layer here. So I've selected the layer that's kind of like the big pumpkin pie shape, the lighter color. And then I'm going to switch to a new brush now. I'm going to choose the Messy Paint brush. So I'm going to select the color of this pie. And then I'm going to just add a few strokes over the top. And this will automatically get a little bit darker because of the effects that are built into this brush. If you wanted to lighten it up, just use heavier pressure to kind of get more of the natural color of this color here. So kind of just add a little bit of texture to the pie. And then we're going to do the kind of side of the pie. So I'm going to go to that layer, which was this little clipping mask right there. I'll select this layer and then do some strokes over that. Kind of darkens it up a little bit, but if I wanted to lighten it, I could do heavier pressure and just kind of like mix the 2 pressures. Next, I'm going to do the crust. So I'll go to that layer I'll select that color and then kind of just add some strokes in there to make it a little more interesting. There we go. And maybe I'll get like a bit lighter color, a little more yellow, kind of mix that into it. And then here on the ends where it'd be like a little more, I don't know, burnt, not burnt, more cooked. I'm just going to use light pressure to add some darker strokes because those would be a little darker naturally on a piece of pie. I like that. And then I'm going to make my brush size a little smaller and then kind of do heavy pressure along this edge to show that lighter, kind of want like a lighter color across the edge here. Let's see if without the sketch on. There we go. That looks pretty good. Okay, let's do our little dollop. So I'm going to start with the bottommost layer. I'm going to go into my kind of yellow colors and I'm just going to kind of choose a creamy gray. And then I'm going to draw kind of a shape like this along the bottom. Then I'm going to select the white and I'm going to kind of blend it back. Maybe make my brush size a bit bigger. Then I'm lightly using some pressure to kind of blend those two colors together like this. And then I'm going to go to the next layer up. So it's this kind of middle section. I'll select this same color and then I'll draw that same sort of shape kind of going across like this. Then I'll choose the white and kind of blend it back a little bit. Make it a little softer. Like that. Then I'll do my final little piece here. So I'll select this darker color, kind of draw with heavy pressure that kind of shaded side of the dollop. I'm imagining my light source is coming from this way, so that's why I'm making all the darker sides here. And then I'll use white to kind of blend that back. And then I'm going to get a little bit darker color than this. So I'm just going to go a little bit darker. Oops, maybe a little darker than that. Yeah, just a little bit more. I'll do all three and then I'll kind of blend them if I need it. Need a little darkness along the bottom like that. And then I can choose kind of a middle color there and kind of blend it a little bit like that. I'm trying to keep it mostly white, but here on this side it's a little bit darker. There we go. Okay. So now we're going to add some shadows to this. We're going to add a shadow made by the cream and then a shadow underneath the pie. So I'm going to create a layer right under all three cream layers. So I'll just tap on this pie crust layer, tap the plus to create a new layer. And then I'm going to set this layer's blend mode to multiply by tapping this little N and then sliding up in this list to multiply. This has a darkening effect of whatever we put on this layer. It will darken all the layers beneath it. For my colors, I'm going to choose sort of a gray. I'll start with kind of like a middle gray. And then for my brushes, I'm going to switch to this brush called Wet Paint. This is a brush that's a little bit softer, so it'll be really nice for doing the shadows. And then I'm going to use this brush to kind of paint in a shadow. As you can see, it's really soft. So I want the edges of our shadow to be soft. We've got the light kind of coming in this way, so the shadow's kind of being cast that way. So in a nice soft shadow shape, make sure we go right underneath the cream. And then here, really close to the edge of the cream, we're going to choose an even darker color because it would naturally be a little bit darker right next to the object. Maybe go a little smaller with my brush size and really darken it right underneath that. That's going to help it look a little bit more realistic. We're doing obviously really stylized drawing, but some little touches like this will help it look a little more realistic. If you use light pressure with this brush, it's nice and blendy. So if you need to blend out your lines a little bit, just use light pressure. But I think that looks pretty good. And then we'll add a shadow on the plate. So I'm going to create a layer right above the plate. So tap the plus sign to create a new layer. We'll also set this layer's blend mode to multiply. And then I'll choose a lighter gray to start. A little bit bigger brush size. I'm at 60%. And then we're going to have our shadow kind of come down to the side, kind of in the back and to the side like this. Kind of to echo what we did up here. And I'm not making it go on this edge because if you imagine a plate has like that little lip, that's kind of the idea there. So I'm not like going all the way to the edge like that, just kind of in the middle here. So really softly blend it. That's what I'm doing right now. And then here close to where the cake actually sits on the plate, I'm going to choose a much darker color, smaller brush size, and just add a little bit darker of a shadow down there. Maybe darken it a little more there. And then a tiny bit darker. Want that edge at the bottom to be nice and dark. There we go. All right, we've got some nice shadows happening. Now we're gonna add some fun details. So the first thing I'm gonna do is add some details to the plate. I'm going to create a new layer right above the plate layer. So tap on the plate, tap plus, and I'm gonna go over to my brushes and I'm gonna use the crayon brush to do these details. I really love this brush. It looks just like a crayon. And then I'll choose just like a nice blue color for my little details. And I am at 25%. I think that's a good size. I'm just gonna add some kind of like curly designs along the outside of the plate. You can do whatever fun design you want on your plate, but I think some little curlies would look nice. So there we go. So just kind of all the way around. So now we're gonna add some fun little colored pencil dashes kind of all over the piece to give it a little extra texture, movement, and just to add kind of a quirky element to this illustration. We're gonna be doing this using a couple blend modes. So let's go up to our layers. We're gonna add a layer above all the others. So tap the top layer and then tap plus, then tap the little N, and we're gonna set the blend mode to multiply. And then we're gonna zoom in here, and for the color, I'm just gonna select the color that I already have. So select the top of the pumpkin pie color. And then for my brushes, I'm gonna switch back to the colored pencil brush. Then I'm gonna draw some fun little groups of dashes, kind of following the contours of my pie. So you can do them in little groups. These darker lines look good if you put them in the darker areas of your illustration, but you can really just put them anywhere. And we're going to be adding some lighter dashes in with them, so you don't have to fill it in completely. If you decide that these look too dark, you can always choose a lighter color in your color picker. If you've already gone through and drawn a bunch, you can adjust them with the hue, saturation, brightness adjustment. So you can make them lighter or less saturated. I think that's what I'll do here so that they're a little less intense. And then I'll do down here. So I'm just going to select the color down here and then just maybe I'll choose a lighter, less saturated version to start. And then I'm just going to add some little groups of dashes. So now I'm going to go through and add these dark dashes over my entire pie. I'll do the side of the pie. Then I'll do the crust. I'm going to kind of follow the contours of everything. I can make them curve around if I want to. I'll even add them to the dollop. Again, kind of using them to add a little bit of movement, kind of swirling around. I'll even add some here into the shadows, just really light little dash marks. And then once I've added all my dark dashes, I'm gonna add some light dashes. So I'm gonna create another layer for that. I tap the plus sign. I'm gonna set this layer's blend mode to screen. And the screen blend mode has a lightening effect. So that's what we're gonna use next. So again, I'll start up here. I'll select the color and then I'll see if I like that. If I find it's a little too saturated, I can desaturate the color just a little bit. I can make it a little darker if I don't want it too bright. A little bit darker. Then I'm kind of mixing in some light ones with the dark. Like I said, this is totally an artistic choice. You kind of get creative with it and have fun. Just doing like some little groups of these lighter colors. I think that looks really cool. And then down here, I'll start with the base color and make it a little darker. There we go. And then I'll just go over the entire pie, kind of mixing in these light dashes with the dark ones. And once I've finished all of my dashes, I am just going to add a little bit of texture to the background, and I think I'm going to be all done. I'm going to create a layer below everything else. So I made a new layer below everything else. I'm going to choose my background color, and I'm just going to use Color Drop to fill that layer with green, because that's going to give me a base to use my messy paintbrush to add some texture. So I'm just going to go all the way big with my brush and just kind of add some texture to the background. So alternating between like light and heavy pressure, kind of mixing in the different tones that this brush gives you, just to kind of make the background a little more interesting. And with that final touch, this pumpkin pie is ready to serve. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and it gets you in the mood for fall. Again, I'm Lisa Bardot, and I help people find their creativity through drawing on the iPad. And if you enjoyed learning from this video, you'll love being a member of Art Makers Club. We've got a growing library of premium courses, exclusive classes, and expanded in-depth tutorials with extra goodies to help you learn, like Procreate files of what we're drawing so you can see how the layers are broken down and get a closer look at what brushes we use, a Procreate color palette, additional instructions, and more. You'll get to join in members-only live events every month, such as Ask Me Anything Q&As and live drawing tutorials. In our community clubhouse, you get to connect with like-minded learning artists, share your work, ask for feedback, participate in discussions, and so much more. And you'll get instant access to the bonus brushes, a unique set of never-before-seen Bardot Brush Procreate brushes. Come join us in the club. You can learn more at artmakersclub.com. If you're sharing your work, I would love to see it. Use the hashtag BardotBrush. Thanks, and happy art making! If you like this video, please subscribe for more awesome tutorials, and check out one of my other videos. Thanks, and have a great day!